The best stories around here start with good old Colin being wrong, 100% wrong. That's what happened today when I came across this email this morning from Louisville. One of our viewers named Bob down there sent me an email and said, Colin, you got to watch this video. There was one of the fellas was on some kind of crime spree. He was robbing people, shooting his gun. They had him holed up in a house. Inside there were hostages, somebody tied up in duct tape. He was pistol whipping them. Cops had him cornered. The guy comes out, guns blazing, and the cops shot him. He goes, Colin, during the press conference for the fella to explain what happened, why the cops had to shoot him dead, one of the people who run the police department said, let's have a moment of silence for the person who died. Yeah, the person who was pulling a gun on a cop, on a couple cops. Well, I didn't believe it. I looked at the video. There it was, all right there. I don't expect you to believe it either. But I tell you what, watch this video. Then we're going to watch another video where they roll a little bit differently when somebody pulls a gun on a cop.
It was around 10 Sunday night when LMPD officers responded to a report of a robbery in progress at a business in the 3200 block of Fern Valley Road. Promising transparency, but warning it was graphic in nature. LMPD Chief Steve Conrad released body cam video of the deadly incident Monday. Officers seen working to secure the scene, and then at least 5 shots are heard when an armed man pushes open the door. Officers rushing to clear the building, unsure if there are others inside. At the same time, they're working to save the life of the suspect, 24-year-old Corey Boykin Jr.
There's no tourniquet. We need a chest tube.
Police say Officer John Dillon and Officer Nick Uluri, both in the 7th Division, fired shots and are on administrative leave. In the meantime, the investigation continues. A second person, and police won't say if they're a victim or a suspect, also located on scene. A third, bound, duct taped, and pistol whipped, found inside that business.
They were rescued from that location. They were taken to University Hospital by our officers. That victim was treated and released and is now home resting safely.
In fact, police had first been dispatched to the location on a call of an assault. They were unable to find anything. And then 45 minutes later, that call from a business owner reporting a robbery in progress. And the caller said that man was armed. Chief Conrad said Monday those now public videos will be just one part of what he has promised to be a thorough and complete investigation.
We owe this to the suspect's family, to the involved officers, and to the entire community.
Thank you, Chief. Before I go into my presentation, if we all could, I'd like to take a moment to recognize that there was a loss of life in our community in the last 24 hours. So if you could join me in just a moment of silence to recognize that loss of life. Okay, thank you.
You know, this is not the first time we've done a story on Louisville, Kentucky. As a matter of fact, the story in Louisville, we did a story about Louisville and Don't Make the Black Kids Angry, where a large group of black people rampaged through downtown Louisville, destroying property, defying police, beating the hell out of people, including grandparents in front of their children. The day after it happened, these same cast of characters you just saw, with the mayor and the police chief and other people, came out and said, oh, that didn't really happen. Then we saw the videos. You go, well, okay, it happened, but it wasn't that bad. Then we saw some more videos. Yeah, it was bad. Okay, well, maybe it happened. Maybe something happened, but it's never really happened before. That was a lie too. And so there was so much deceit involved in this large-scale episode of black mob violence in Louisville. I was going to make that the very first story in my book, Don't Make the Black Kids Angry, until I came across that story out of Rochester, New York, which made the folks in Louisville seem like amateur prevaricators. But you know, we do have choices, and the Louisville choice is not our only choice. The Louisville approach of turning the criminals into victims, that's not the only approach. Let's watch how they roll down in Jefferson Parish, Louisiana.
Can't trust cops. Soon as I spot them, I'm running cops. And if they catch me, I'm busting cops.
Citizens actually sent us this video. Actually, someone sent it to me personally and said, you know, I'm very concerned about what's going on. You may want to see this video. I think you're going to be equally concerned. She was so very right. This video completely, as you can tell, infuriates me. That they will try to influence the youth in this community as it relates to this violent crap behavior. Where is the moral compass? I don't see it. No way, no how. We ask why I released the video. We're so worried about the names of the deputies that shot. Really? No one ever asked for the names of the innocent people that were scared shitless that day as bullets were flying by their head. Really? Come on, folks. Wake up! We're talking about lives mattering? Why are we not talking about the drug dealing? Why are we not talking about the fear of the families of my deputies that have to say goodbye to their husbands and wives every day for fear that they're not going to come home alive? Really? No one has asked that question. No one. Because I'm going to tell you whose life doesn't matter. Is everybody that was out on that scene as it relates to this guy living the gangster life. Nobody's life mattered to him. Over 65 rounds fired that day. Absolute miracle that no one got hurt. Any doubt that the 9mm here with the laser light and the Ruger 380 with the built-in laser light was in that video? Any doubt in anybody's mind? Extended magazines, all these rounds of ammunition, seal meal bags, consistent with what? Drug dealing, right? Any doubt there? Hermetically sealed buds of marijuana here, $700-800 of cash on his pocket. In fact, one of the witnesses said, as she watched the thing go down on the street between the hotel and the office building, she turned her head because she did not want to see a cop get killed. So the message to Kensington and all the other neighborhoods in Jefferson Parish, wake up! If you know what's going on in your neighborhoods, call the sheriff's office and let us know.
Sheriff Newell Norman said deputies were called to Ford Street and Cleary Avenue in Metairie after reports of two men rolling tires down the street.
And this is what we're called upon to do every day. Truck rims, people. Truck rims.
Norman says Devon Martez leveled a gun at his deputy and pulled the trigger. That's when Deputy Dave Dalton shot and killed Martez.
Devon Martez pulled the trigger on the gun and tried to kill one of my officers. But for the fact that the gun malfunctioned, I might have a dead officer.
Martez's father, Glenn Parker, spoke to us off camera, saying he knows his son was wrong and he doesn't blame the deputy for doing what he did because his life was in danger.
And I appreciate that statement. It's one of the most honest statements that I've heard in a long, long time, and it's probably a very tough statement for that father to say that because he lost his son.
Investigators say Martez was shot 6 times. His mother, Alicia Martez, said after the first shot, the deputy should have stopped shooting.
Don't refer to him as the victim. He was going to act out to be a cold-blooded killer.
I'm not even sure that sheriff is still the sheriff down there. He might be hosting a talk show. If so, I'm going to be one of his most loyal listeners. You know, the last time I remember getting a letter that was so ridiculous on the face of it, but turned out to be true, was when I did a story on a guy named Kelvin Wiley out in San Diego. I was working for a magazine in San Diego. I was actually sitting there in the office talking to my publisher, something I rarely did. I just wrote stories, sent them in. They didn't see me. I didn't see them. We were all happy. Yay. Anyway, I'm there talking to my publisher, and we were having such an important conversation that the phone rang, and the publisher picked up the telephone. I think it was his wife. Anyway, so I'm just sitting there. Rather than listen in, I look down, like next to me. I'm sitting next to a small trash can. There's a letter on top. I pull the letter out. It's from a convict named Kelvin Wiley. Kelvin's in prison for trying to kill Kelvin, the black guy. He's in prison for trying to kill his white girlfriend. Only the letter says, oh no, he didn't do it. Not only didn't he do it, the judge even said at sentencing that the main witness against him, the woman, the victim, he said she was a liar. I said, no, that's not true. So I was going to do a story saying, look, we got all these convicts wasting their time, wasting resources of the legal system, filing appeals for something they transparently did. I looked into the story and I found out, A, what he said was true, plus a lot more. The woman had tried to frame somebody else for the same thing. She flat out lied. The cops didn't really investigate. They just put him on a little treadmill, put him out, and at the end of the treadmill, there were 12 people. Well, really more than 12, right? I mean, when you get convicted of a crime, there's not just a jury. There's a whole staff of prosecutors. There's a whole staff of court-appointed this and that. The judge has people working for him. I think there's like 30 or 40 people involved, any one of which at any point in the process can pull the handle and put a stop to the entire proceeding by going, no, that didn't really happen. So when I did this, it took a month or two to do this story. So I took it in a month later and gave it to my publisher. And basically, when you give a story like that to a publisher, you're saying, oh yeah, Colin's right. Those 30 to 40 people, professionals, are wrong. Oh, and by the way, if I turn out to be wrong, they'll probably sue you and you'll probably lose your paper. Those are the stakes there. But I documented it, nailed it. That story was featured in NPR, the LA Times, San Diego Union Tribune, papers, electronic and national media across the country did stories about this. I actually thought this was going to be a TV movie. But I'll tell you that story another day, but it got kind of weird. But I had an agent, he was shopping it around, the whole thing. When I wrote that story, I was a little bit of a hero among the liberal reporters, a couple around the country who like to talk about it. And I got a black dude out of prison who was unjustly convicted for trying to kill his white girlfriend. But now that I'm doing the same kind of stories, telling the same kind of truth about black criminality wildly out of proportion, and how reporters, public officials, and lots of other people around are in denial, deceit, and delusion about it, well, I'm a little bit less of a hero to that crowd these days because, well, just like that first police chief we saw in this video who was holding a moment of silence for this guy who pulled a gun on his cops. Oh, by the way, did you hear that chief say anything about the cops' families? Did you hear a thing about that? Any empathy, sympathy for the families, what they're going through, knowing their children, their brothers, sisters, husbands, sons, daughters are knocking on doors where people are pulling guns and threatening to kill them? Hear any sympathy for that? Wasn't there. That's because if you say that kind of stuff in Louisville and lots of other places around America, that's going to make a whole lot of black kids angry.